We cannot anchor ourselves and try to build a utopia here on earth. I know you want to look good and you want to have these accolades and degrees, and these are all important. But they will be vaporized in eternity. They will mean nothing. I will not be Pastor Byung in heaven. I would just be plain OB. And you can become a doctor. You can become whatever your heart desires. But those titles, those degrees, doesn't mean much at the Father's house. Because last time I went home, my mom and dad don't say, 전도사님 밥 먹어. They say, yeah. yeah, 밥 먹어. Just call me yeah, It's endearing, because at home, I'm not special. I'm just their son, and it's cool. Jesus left to prepare a permanent home for you and me. Listen to what Henry Nouwen says about home. And I really like this excerpt, and I'll ask that you read along with me up here. Henry Nouwen says, home is the center of my being, where I can hear the voice that says, you are my beloved, in whom I am well pleased. Jesus made it clear that the same voice he heard on the Jordan River and Mount Tabor can be heard by me. Jesus makes it clear that there is a home with the Father. But if I decide to keep control, if I go out into the world, I will keep running around asking everything. Do you really love me? Do you really love me? I give all the power to the voices of the world. It's the world that defines me then. The world's love is full of ifs. I will love you if you're pretty. I will love you if you're productive. I will love you if you're intelligent. And it is not too hard to know when I have left home spiritually. Resentment, jealousy, desire for revenge, rivalry, lust, greed, ambition are all obvious signs that I have left home. That I am letting the world define me with its love full of ifs. But when I am home with the Father, when I know I am beloved, I can confront and console, admonish, encourage without any fear of rejection or need for affirmation. I can suffer persecution without desire for revenge or receive praise without using it as a proof of my goodness. And you know what? End of quote. And you know what Jesus says? That this home that I'm preparing for you, it is only a foreshadowing of the fact that the Father and I want to make a home in your life. I know last week I mentioned that the fact that God lives in us is unfathomable. How can God live in me? How can God live in you? A philosopher would say that is insane. It is preposterous. How can an infinite, unlimited God live in a limited, flesh, contaminated space such as mine? I used the analogy last week that the fact that God lives in us is like going to the ocean with a 16-ounce bottle or a can, an empty can, and saying, ocean, come into this can. Ocean, come into this 16-ounce bottle. Fill it up. We would never go to the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean and try to fill one cup or one can with the ocean. But that is precisely what God has promised in our lives. Why do you think Jesus said that I have come to bring life and life in abundance? Because what seems impossible to us is very possible with God. And He has made a home in my shabby life. He lives within me. He goes wherever I go, and I go wherever He goes. Wherever I am, the presence of God is. Do you feel that way about your life? One time I met a homeless man by the name of Ray who lived near my house. And one thing Ray kept telling me, he was older than me and homeless. And one thing Ray kept telling me was that he missed his house. He missed his home. Why did we pity orphans? Why did Jesus say, I will not leave you as orphans? Why do we feel so sympathetic toward orphans? Isn't it because they have no family? Some of you guys have left God's house, his home, to find home. How is it working out for you? How is it working out for you? Leaving the Father's house and building your own. How's that working out for you? Are you secure? Do you feel safe? I don't think you do. You know what really boggles my imagination is that Jesus said that I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. He's talking about heaven. Do you know that it took God 6 days to create the earth? It's just 6 days. Jesus has been gone 2,000 years. I'm not trying to be a mathematician, but that's over 730,000 days since Jesus has been gone. If it took Michelangelo over 4 years to paint the Sistine Chapel, imagine what heaven will be like. Perhaps we are too comfortable in Maryland, in America, to imagine how awesome heaven will be. But in this hour of pain, at least in my life, and I'm sure some of you, I cannot wait to go home. And the only reason I know I will go home is because the Father and the Son and the Spirit has made their home in me. Without that down deposit, that down payment, I have no assurance of going to heaven. Do you realize why it's so important for you to let Jesus have control over your life, to make his home within you? Because without that down payment, metaphorically speaking, you have no assurance that you are going to heaven. If you do not feel him breathing and living and moving within you, then how do you know that you are going home one day? If you are in the army or overseas and you do not receive letters from home and pictures of your nieces and little kids just growing up in your neighborhood, how do you know that when you are done with your tenure, you will have a place to go back to? The Father tells me every day, keep fighting, Byung. Keep hoping. Keep pressing. You will come home one day. Fight the good fight. Pour your life into these people, and you will have your reward with me. I believe that with all my heart. And I know that God is simultaneously making my future home in heaven while making his home within me. Secondly, Jesus had to leave in this passage because Jesus wants to reveal himself to you. Jesus wants to reveal all of himself, all of his heart to you and me. Thomas says in verse 5, no, we don't know how to get there. We haven't any idea where you are going. So how do we know the way? And Jesus pointed to himself and said, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. No one gets to the Father without me. This is an exclusive claim. I know we live in a tolerant, pluralistic, relativistic world where everyone is right, where no one is wrong, all truth can be true. But truth by its very nature is exclusive. And it's also offensive. And Jesus says, there are no other gods but me. You cannot get to heaven without going through me. Jesus is saying, you want to get to heaven? You want to get to the Father? You must let me escort you. And Jesus is also saying, moreover, that I, Jesus Christ, am the full, exact